Hi, my name is Ashlynn, and this is my story about building resiliency. When I was 12, I lost my dad to cancer. It was a huge loss, and I felt this overwhelming cloud of sadness and grief. He left a huge hole in my family, and it was really tough processing that grief on my own and also watching my family members grieve and trying to work that out together. I think grieving as a family is a unique challenge that comes with both camaraderie and community, but also this communal sadness and grief. For the first few months, I was crying every single day, and I felt this deep, deep sense of sadness. Everything in my life reminded me of him and how much I miss him in my life and in my family. But a couple months later, I was still so sad and had this deep sense of grief. I was still crying every day. And so I went to go talk to my mom, and I said that I was still crying every day, and I felt like this would never change. I felt like I would always feel this deep sense of sadness for the rest of my life. And what my mom said was really wise. She said that it was okay for me to feel this deep sense of grief within my soul. It was okay for me to grieve the loss of my dad, and it was okay that I was still feeling sad and still crying every day, but that it wasn't always gonna feel like this. My grief would change over time, but that it would be slow. So what she recommended was she got me a calendar, and each day that I cried or I grieved over the loss of my dad, I put a little blue dot on the calendar. And for the first few weeks when I started tracking my grief, all the calendar did was confirm what I already knew, that I was crying every single day. But after a month or so, it was only 6 days a week. And a month after that, it was only 5 days a week, and 4, and so on. And it was so encouraging to me to be able to visually see that my grief wasn't the same that it was at the beginning, that I was building resiliency, that I was getting stronger, that my grief was changing as I was processing the loss of my dad. What I think my mom did that was really wise was she told me that my grief and my tears were never a bad thing. I'm glad that I took that time to process that grief, but I felt at the beginning like this was only going to be a short-term thing, and it wasn't. It took a long time to grieve, and I think that was healthy, to process grief, process those challenging times in your life little by little. My mom used this analogy that when she was grieving, it was like this giant monster was in front of her. But what a friend encouraged her to do was just look at the big toe. Just look at what's in front of you and slowly, step by step, move forward throughout that time of grief, that time of trial, that time of struggling. So if you're struggling right now with a large challenge in your life, whether that's a loss or a transition or whatever that looks like for you, it's okay if you're not better overnight. Moving through that slowly, step by step, will leave you stronger and more resilient.